Blackstar's most popular amp range has just expanded. Let's check out the new members of the HT Mark III family. Blackstar recently updated their HT series of amplifiers with the brand new Mark III iterations, bringing in a bunch of very welcome features into these flagship amps that players around the world are really enjoying. And certainly the last time I checked out these amplifiers, it was the 100-watt HT Stage Mark III, which luckily, Steve from Blackstar was here to guide me through all those brand new features in the amplifiers. Now, I'm not going to touch on too much of the really in-depth stuff with this amp because actually Steve did an amazing job with talking me through all that. So if you do want to get a really in-depth look into these amps, do click the video above my head or in the description. That is the one that I did with Steve for the launch. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the kind of features that you're going to see on these slightly smaller members of the HT family, and more kind of just try and guide you into finding which one would be right for you and the situation and one not. All the sounds you're going to be hearing today are from my Ibanez AZ42P1 that I use in a lot of the demos just because I get a lot of sounds from this as well. But the rest of the sort of tones are going to be coming from the amp itself, and also the 2x12 companion cabinet that the HT head that I've got is hooked up to, and that's mic'd up with an SM57 and an SM27. So let's just dive right in. So first and foremost, it's probably worth mentioning the brand new sizes that you're going to be getting in the HT range. Now, previously there was well, not even previously, you can still get them, they're part of the family as a whole. But you can get 100-watt heads, you can get a 60-watt combo, you can get a 50-watt head, and also a 40-watt combo as well. They have all got very similar features across the board, but one of the best ways I would describe certainly the sort of hierarchy of the HT family is when you're up at the top with the 100-watt, that's where you're going to be getting basically all the features that Blackstar can kind of, cram into those heads. And it's a very feature-rich amplifier with, 2 voices per channel, several channels that you can flick between, and just basically the ultimate palette for sort of sculpting sounds. Now, a lot of those features do still get put into these amps, including the cab rig technology, which I will touch on in a little bit. But the easiest way that I can sort of describe them is that as you start kind of coming down the range, it just gets a little bit more simplified and you start just kind of having a little bit more of a focused amplifier. The big thing with these ones being that these are some of the smallest but the highest gain amplifiers that Blackstar are doing. So you are covering a lot of sounds with these. So taking a look at the HT20 that I'm plugged into now and what you heard at the start of the demo. This is an all-valve head. It's actually the same for all the HT range. They are all-valve amplifiers. But in the kind of essence of their St. James amplifier that they released, these heads, and actually the cab as well, are extremely light. That seems to be one thing that Blackstar seem to be focusing on with their amplifiers, is just making it easy for you to cart around. Nobody, I think, wants a super heavy head or cabinet anymore. And certainly with these, it is super easy for you to, have a guitar in one hand and the amplifier in the other. So the HT20 Mark III here is loaded with 2 ECC83 tubes and 2 EL84s as well. Pretty standard across the board with the HT range, of course, just as you start kind of going down in size and as you go up in size, the number of tubes that you're going to get are going to correspond to the power that you have. Taking a look at the front panel of this amplifier as well. This is where things obviously start to get a bit more expanded with the Blackstar sounds and the range and whatnot. So if we're looking at sort of the layout of this, we have 2 channels. We have a clean, we have an overdrive, we have a shared EQ, master volume, a reverb, and then the power option here. So with the HT20, you can reduce that from 20 watts down to 2 watts. So if you're looking at the clean channel, just first of all, which is just at the very right there as well, and actually it's worth saying that the HT20 does come with a foot switch as well that I can flick between the channels and the additional voices on each channel as well. So we're looking at the clean. It's a very, very simple layout on here that you have got a master volume and a tone here as well. And actually, I was getting myself confused with some of the other options there, because that is actually just the overdrive EQ on the options just there, whereas you're going to be controlling everything with a master tone on the clean. This comes with 2 voices. I'll just let you hear the very first one here. Change back to, this is your kind of classic American clean sound here, and with this guitar I'll show you a couple of different sounds with full humbucker and single coil as well. Let's start with the humbucker. And we'll check out the second voice on that as well, which is a British clean, which I've just changed that with the foot switch option there, but you can also use the switch that is on the front of the amp. That doesn't work, obviously, when you have the foot switch engaged. So starting again with some humbuckers here. This is actually probably a really good time to demonstrate the reverb as well, which could be quite subtle when you've got it kind of below the 50% mark, and certainly it doesn't get too overwhelming. I do find it a very usable reverb, especially, you know, on your cleans and on your distortions as well. But certainly if you're looking for those huge like hollow kind of reverbs that are going to, you know, completely encapsulate all your notes and whatnot, it doesn't really get to that level, but it's certainly a very, very usable reverb. So down, I'll show you it just down at this position, and I'll leave it on the second, the British clean there as well. So again, really good companion reverb just on, well, inbuilt to the amplifier as well. Before I move on to the distortion channel of this one as well, this is probably a good time, seeing as though we're talking about kind of time-based effects and whatnot. The HT series is all loaded with a really, really clean Great sounding effects loop built into it. I've actually got a Dunlop Echoplex going through that just now, which I'll even just quickly put it on and you can hear it in action here. Let me turn the reverb off actually as well. Which of course, whatever you've got going through there, it will sound absolutely incredible. And obvious with that as well, there is actually a level switch in there as well. So if you do need to dampen any of the effects, there is an option just right on the back as well. So let's just jump in and talk about the overdrive channel before I chat about anything else on the back there. We're kind of jumping backwards and forwards there, but hey, as I said, if you want much more in-depth review of the HT series for everything that it's got, do check out that video we did with Steve, because that covers a lot of the options that are on here. So if we move over to the overdrive channel, much like the clean, this one has also got 2 voices as well, and much the same, you can control that with the foot switch here. What you're looking at is you're looking at a bit of a classic overdrive on voice 1, and then you've got a more kind of overall like modern overdrive on voice 2 there. And as I mentioned and corrected myself, the EQ there is just for the overdrive, including the ISF feature, which I'll touch on in just a second. But let's double check, see how voice 1 is sounding. So as you can hear from that, there is quite a lot of scope in the gain to get it kind of, you know, pretty crunchy down the bottom there. You can have quite a nice sort of subtle overdrive, which, you know, really works well with dynamics and whatnot. But then if you do crank that up as well, you are getting that kind of classic sort of, you know, overdrive as it's considered on the voicing there. You can really get like a pretty solid rhythm tone, even a lead tone out of that as well. Now, before I move on to the second voice, I'm going to touch on the ISF feature, which is quite a mainstay across Blackstars history, really. It stands for Infinite Shape Feature, which is basically, in a nutshell, it's an EQ scope which makes you go from more of an American sounding amp on the left-hand side to more of a British sounding amp on the right hand side, and it allows you to obviously just kind of scope that to whichever area you want to. So even on just voicing 1 here, I'll set that kind of mid gain just and kind of dial that ISF knob there just so you can hear exactly what it's doing. So it's one of my favourite features actually of the Blackstar amps is that ISF control on it there, just because it allows you to just, if you already have all your EQ set pretty, you know, where you like it to be in terms of obviously your guitar and whatnot like that, but you still want just a little bit more shaping going on, this just allows you to really get it where you want to. And particularly, you know, if you like those more British style distortions, then you dime it all the way to the right. If you prefer the kind of American style as well, you dime it to the left. So if we're moving on to the second voicing of the overdrive, this is where you're going to get more of your modern sounding sort of overdrive tones. So I'll leave it exactly where it was, and let's just hear how that's sounding. And that's all just sitting at about halfway gain there. So as you imagine, if we do crank that up all the way to the top, and let's get it nice and dry with the reverb, you're going to get kind of more of that modern metal-y sound as well. And I'll flick to the single coil sounds of this guitar, because it can kind of evoke a lot of those, you know, much more modern guitar sounds, which a lot of people are looking for at the moment. So here's just full humbucker, and I'll change to the single in just a moment. So again, if you're into that kind of more modern, percussive, sort of single coily sound, that is absolutely perfect for that as well. And it's probably worth just demonstrating very quickly exactly what the ISF is doing on that channel there as well. So let's crank it all the way to the left first. So in terms of scopes of sound, I think the HT20 is really kind of pulling a lot of extra weight, certainly in the abilities that you're able to get, well, the levels you're able to get with the channels there. It's one of those things where, you know, realistically you can have, you know, several different tracks if you're, say, recording or anything like that, where you've got like a crunch, you know, with the overdrive there, and then you can switch it over to your voice too for maybe a solo or something like that. And actually, one of my favourite things, personally, and I think Aaron will agree, who's in the room with me right now, as always, is the cleans are just really, really quite inspiring and really, really fun as well. And just, you know, certainly the way the EQ, the kind of guitar that you're using it as well. But I was really, really surprised at how much we loved the cleans on this, to be fair.
Yeah, the cleans were very responsive when I was having a go at it.
But then you do need to riff on it as well. So I just wanted to very quickly touch on the other sizes that we're getting in the family as well, because these I think are really, really cool. So you may have seen a couple of them sitting obviously just while we have been demoing them, but along with the 20, you also get a combo version of that as well, as I'm manoeuvring around the very small room right now. But this is the 5 watt version, and then this is the 1 watt version as well. A lot of the features are shared across the board on these. Particularly with the 5 watt, you are getting the voice options and the individual channels for them as well. It's pretty much the same layout, but what you are missing on it is obviously the 20 watts of volume. But really, other than that, you're not actually kind of sacrificing much with the 5 watt other than like the size of the speaker and the sheer amount of volume you are pushing out of it. Then with the 1 watt version, this is a bit more simplistic, with gain and a volume for your clean, or a gain and a volume control, sorry, for both channels there. And you're also getting a voicing option for the clean and the overdrive as well, and just a reverb. Now, one of the other features that Blackstar have updated with the HT series is their cab rig, which is their direct sort of ability to be able to record these amplifiers with a bunch of IRs with Blackstar's own software, which is really, really handy, and actually it sounds really, really good as well. We did a full overview of that in our last HT video, so if you do want to get the expertise of Steve and show you how it's working, then that is really good. But it does have a direct out on the back of this amp with 3 options to go between which your cab's going to be. So realistically, if you do have the head, then you can set this up in a way that, you know, this is plugged right into your computer and all the sounds you're hearing are just from that, instead of you having any sort of volume in your house. It's also got a USB-C as well. It's just cool to see that obviously that they're keeping up with the new tech, and means that you can use many a phone charger in your house to connect your amplifier to your computer. So that about covers as much as I wanted to go over with the brand new members to the HT Mark III family. I think it's really, really cool that Blackstar have adopted so many different wattages and sizes within this amp range. Because what you'll find sometimes is that like that iconic sound, or the sound that a lot of amp manufacturers are going for, are maybe limited to just like one size, and maybe that isn't able to be done in your house. Maybe, you know, you're needing to take it on stage, or, you know, you do want something that you can use at home as well as on stage. And, you know, to have something like this, say for the 20, for example, which ramping that down at the 2 watt setting is very much being able to used in a smaller environment. And then if you're on stage, you flick that up to the 20, if it's being mic'd up, you are going to be able to hear it. But I think it's just really cool as well that they've incorporated a lot of the features from, you know, the flagship amplifier, and that carries down much, you know, the cab rig. The fact that these are all tube as well is really cool, and it's with particularly the 1 watt version and whatnot, you can really get some of those like really cool gainy sounds out of a relatively small amplifier. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked to see these now. But let us know what you think about the new members to the Mark III family down below. And if you have liked the video at all, give us a like and give us a subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. But till next time, I've been Keiran, and this has been the brand new Blackstar HT20, the HT5 and the HT1 Mark III. Have a great day.